What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's What's on Kickstarter. Today we're going to be checking out some of the great, good, and not so good decks recently released on the platform, as well as some really fun campaigns for other things you can find on Kickstarter. Steve, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well. It was the holiday weekend, had a couple friends over, and ate way too much food.
That's
How was
always
yours?
how it goes. Honestly, mine was nice. It was super low-key. I got to relax a good amount, but at this point, I'm just glad to be back into the grind. We had a mellow weekend, and now it's back to Kickstarter, which I'm super excited for, man. We are getting really close to the holidays at this point, and decks are going to start dropping off. I think, saw about 8 new decks this week so far, which was more than I expected coming into the first week of December, but I'm sure that in the next week or two, we're going to be seeing maybe 4 or 5 dropping at most.
Yeah, I'm hoping to save a little bit of money.
Hopefully. We got some really fun decks this week, though, so let's jump right into it. All right, so coming up for this week's first great campaign, we have the Instant Noodles Playing Cards Spicy Edition from a BaoBao restaurant. Honestly, I cannot get enough of not only the decks that Bao is putting out, but I love the name BaoBao Restaurant. Something about it just so great.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they're spicy nudes.
Good spicy nudes here. Honestly, I'm really excited to see this follow up to the highly successful original Instant Noodles Playing Cards. This one has some nice improvement over the original version, things like the packaging being a little easier to open, etc. If you want to check out more interesting behind-the-scenes details with that, check out our live with Bao from last week where we checked out the Spicy Noodle playing cards. But I gotta say, no surprise here, this is an absolutely great campaign. Diving into it, I love the fact that he actually mentions up top the fact that there's a 3-day early bird special. Quick, eye-catching. First thing you see on there, you're curious about it. I think now that they're either at or past the early bird specials, I'd probably say take that down, but otherwise I really like that usage of a graphic there to show you not only a small version of the deck, but an eye-catching, enticing offer from the jump.
Yeah, I like seeing the image up there too of the
Absolutely.
pack.
Getting right into it, they have some key features here, a nice little story. We see the printer right there off the bat, USPCC printed on their B-grade paper crushed stock. So basically that's premium crushed stock there for anyone who doesn't know the transition between the names of bicycle to standard and B to premium. Really cool packaging. I always love how well he does mimicking similar packaging as to what we've seen in the industry. If you went out and picked up a bowl of ramen, there's a very good chance that you're going to see similar packaging on an instant noodle ramen package there.
Oh, 100%.
See a fun little peek inside the case there, and then we see the 2 little mochi that are the are they mochi or are they dumplings of a sort? Actually, now that I say that, I'm curious. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't have mochi in
but
ramen,
I think it's part of the little logo for BaoBao restaurant, so that's why I'm curious. Are they dumplings or are they mochi?
It might be dim sum. Dim sum dumplings.
So for
maybe.
anyone out there who knows the answer, feel free to drop a comment down below and let us know what you think the BaoBao restaurant logo is, whether it's mochi or dumplings. I'm leaning toward dumplings now that I said it, but curious to see what everyone else thinks. And then diving into it, we can really see a great story here. So really fun discussion around the packaging, talking about the back design here. A big difference between this deck and the previous one, obviously, is the fact that this is bordered and there's obviously a color change to it as well. But one of the cool things is this isn't just a color change. They actually took and redesigned this deck to make it a 2-way back design, make it bordered, make it a little more what Bao had originally envisioned, but maybe didn't hit with the original deck.
Yeah, this one's definitely geared a little bit more towards Magic, which I really love.
Really fun look to it. That I personally, I'm a big fan of a borderless deck, so I would have loved to see this in a borderless variation as well, but I still think it looks super clean with that border around it.
Yeah, I'm going to throw you a nice red Sharpie and you can color in the old one.
There you go, I appreciate that. It'll only take me like 17 years to color in all those cards, but I'm good. But no, I gotta say, I really like the way they laid out this campaign. You can see they're rolling through the number cards there and the aces. They touch on the court cards. They talk about the jokers, which I think the jokers are probably part of my favorite aspect of this deck.
Yeah.
And then here's my second favorite part. The ad cards are always spot on. The original ad cards for these basically looked legit like packages that you like, the flavor package that you'd get in ramen. So to see a spicy seasoning and spicy soup base here, I'm really excited for that. And then a stoic image from Bao, as always. So getting into the production and fulfillment here, again, we see USPCC printed, but we also see it's going to be fulfilled by gamblers. So reliable names there, bringing you a great deck of cards here. And looking at, dude, price point is $20 shipped, which all things considered with increased holiday shipping is spot on for a great fun deck here.
Yeah, totally.
I'm really excited for this one. Good luck to Bao. Coming up for this week's first good campaign, we have the Card Baby Club Blue Eyes playing cards. So this is from Card Baby Club. The interesting thing about this too, and this is actually kind of, I was surprised when I saw this launch and not immediately fun, because Card Baby has a very large following on both Instagram and TikTok. He actually mentions that right at the top. I personally think that probably would have been a little bit better towards the bottom. And one of the big things about what makes this campaign a good campaign, not a great campaign, isn't so much the information in the campaign, but the layout and the support behind it. So taking a look, we can dive into it. We see a nice little story here. We see the back design. I would have liked something a little more flush so you could get a nice view of the back design, but it's relatively simple, relatively minimal, so you can get a good feel for it there. And then we see face cards, number cards, and the materials. I absolutely think that story, which is a good chunk of text, should have been brought through the cards a little bit more, break up the images a little bit. In addition, they have a nice little feature section here, so it's going to be printed by USPCC on their premium crush stock. The one thing I would say too is make sure you just spell check everything there, USPCC, not UCPCC. Again, a little bit of a nitpick there, but it's always good to make sure these things are as perfectly correct as possible. And then we get into some more images here. We see the practice kit and full practice kit. Cases for our full bricks. So it looks like they're basically calling a half brick and a full brick a practice kit and a full practice kit, which is a nice little marketing name around it. Interesting looking display cases there as well. Somewhat reminiscent of the old school black cases with the acrylic tops on them, so you could see what's inside.
Yeah. Is it wood or is it just the cardboard? It
looks like cardboard, just based on the little pop out I can see there.
The black ones.
It's similar to the black ones there. And then we see a tutorial as well. Each card game comes with a download link for a tutorial video where Card Baby shows and explains how to do certain moves. Really cool to see them adding these things into it. But again, the one big thing that stands out to me with this campaign is it just feels like there isn't a lot of build up to it. There isn't a lot of story built out to it. In addition to that, we can see this is actually going to be fulfilled by gamblers in the US and dealies in the EU, which I think it's great that they're using that split fulfillment to help bring the lowest shipping cost possible. One of the biggest things that I think here, what do all these stretch goals actually mean? So yes, it's great you have stretch goals, 100%, 150%. Are these different deck variations? Are they... That's what I'm thinking too, but at the same time, it's like 5 decks is very ambitious, especially at a 300% stretch goal. That's only $33,000 at 2,500 print runs with crush stock each. That's a lot of, I mean, you're looking at 12,500 decks. That's a significant undertaking at a relatively low stretch goal. So actually breaking out the stretch goals and explaining what each component is, what it actually entails, is very important, because having a stretch goal and articulating it is what actually drives people to want to hit those stretch goals. If I see blue eyes, green eyes, and I'm making the assumptions it's a deck, that might get me excited, but I may also be completely off basis there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely brave, that's for sure.
The other thing, and I think this is a big thing to touch on too, is the idea that with such a large social media following, again, I'm surprised that this deck didn't fund a lot quicker. One of the reasons behind that is I think there just hasn't been a very large or successful marketing push yet. With such a large following, going to take a look at Card Baby's social media, I see that he hasn't posted anything since the campaign launched on his Instagram, which to me says a lot. The other thing with his TikTok, he's alternating between his deck and other decks. When you have a campaign live, you should be making sure the only deck you're using during that time is your deck, because it's self-promotion. In addition to that, make sure that your links from social media go to the campaign. Make sure that you're letting people know that this campaign is live. With 3.2 million followers, even if 1% of that backed, you're looking at 30,000 people. Even if 0.1% of that backed, that's 3,000 people who could significantly push this far over the goal. Also, my math may be right or wrong there, so I apologize ahead of time, but I think I did that right in my head real quick. With that in mind, taking a look at the price point, we're looking at $17 shipped, which is a reasonable price point for what this deck is. It actually comes in under where we see a lot of decks coming in at $20 now, but I think the biggest hindrance to this campaign right now is just the lack of visibility and marketing. Push this thing out there. Use your social network. You obviously realize that you have a network you can utilize. Make sure you're doing it properly and get people to come to the Kickstarter. If you're seeing that people are coming to the Kickstarter and still choosing not to back, figure out why. Ultimately, the goal on this too, reasonably where it should be, 2,500 decks, $11,000. Might be a little low, all things considered, but I think it's still workable based on what you're trying to achieve with the stretch goals excluded. But I think there's just a lot more that could be added here. Also, one of the things to consider as a social media influencer with a large following, put add-ons in that rely on your social media that have no additional cost. Think about things like Cameo, where people pay to have a message from their favorite celebrities. Use that to your advantage and create, personalized messages as add-ons, or a 30-minute private cardistry or magic session where you will teach them things in that private session. Those can actually go a long way to pushing your goal to the, pushing your funding to the goal without actually incurring additional cost other than your time, which obviously has an inherent value as well, but doesn't have a material cost to it necessarily.
Yeah, and if you look at the subheading under there, the title, that's really not going to be useful for search
100%
criteria.
agree. Again, remember these titles are for search optimization purposes. You want to have things in there that's going to really draw people in. That is not going to really entice people on Kickstarter who don't necessarily know who you are, especially because your demographic for Kickstarter is a lot different than your demographic for things like TikTok, where those numbers actually matter. The other thing I would say with that too is come up with a cool catchphrase. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder is a simple one that has an eye in it and plays with the cards. So many things can be tied into that deck that would really help take this from a good campaign to a great campaign and hopefully push it to funding, because I think there's a lot of support behind your social media that you just need to bring to the campaign.
Yeah,
good luck. And before we jump into this week's Needs Help campaign, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
And give the bell a
So
ring.
coming up for this week's first Needs Help campaign, we have the Chameleon cards Snowfall. So I have to say, this is actually a really interesting deck because this is, I want to say, the second or third deck put up on Kickstarter by the creator, of which this will be the first one that, has not unsuccessfully funded as of yet. I'm hopeful that this deck funds because it's interesting. There's a lot of fun design to it. If you're into chameleons or you're into marked decks, this is a cool deck. But I think the one thing I always want to caution creators about when they have an idea and put it up and see it doesn't work isn't pivoting to another idea necessarily, but figuring out why the original idea didn't succeed, because a lot of times it's not necessarily the artwork. It may be the campaign itself. Sometimes it is the artwork. But with that in mind, you want to take a stock of all potential aspects of what could have failed with a campaign before you jump into another campaign that could fail for the same reasons. So diving into this campaign, we see story, not another marked deck. Marked decks have been historically expensive and come with complex or hard to read, much less remembering marking systems. So again, definitely make sure to have people run through this stuff with you. I'm pretty sure probably most people can see my brain just like glitch there as I was reading through this because I thought I misread this. I think a lot of times, making sure your story is coherent and has a good flow to it is super important. Having a slip up, even something as minute as that in your first sentence, is immediately going to set people on edge while going into the rest of the campaign, and that's not something you want. The other thing about it too is, yes, historically marked decks have been expensive, but in the past 10 years, we've seen a significant decrease in the cost of marked decks. So I would mention what you mean historically. I would be a little more upfront about what a marked deck actually costs these days. You can go out and buy a $10 marked deck these days, to be fair.
Yeah.
So definitely has a little bit of a story to it. Touches on the printer here, and I believe they may even touch on fulfillment scrolling ahead here. So it doesn't look like they touch on fulfillment, but they do touch on a printer here. So taking a look here, we see linen air light stock from MPC, which means that they're going to be doing 1,000 print run minimum. And taking a look at the goal, $8,000. So really taking account for that reduced price point from MPC because they're doing 1,000 decks, and shipping, that's a pretty reasonable goal there, I'd say.
Yeah, and you never know if they have to pay for designer fees or anything like that.
Exactly. So we do see a nice little feature section here. The one thing, though, I'm really not seeing is non-artistic shots of the deck. So really looking into it, we see the back design here, but the other thing that stands out is we see custom card faces. So throughout the campaign, we actually don't see any pictures of the card faces. In the video, we also checked the video real quick just to make sure it wasn't in there. We actually see that the prototype, which I'm assuming they used there, was the standard NPC faces. So it's a little bit disconcerting to see custom card faces, but not actually show off any of the faces. And honestly, I think the idea of a chameleon deck with like chameleons replacing the faces would be super cool. So it's really important in that situation to show off everything the deck has to offer, because ultimately you've hit on who's going to be printing. You haven't hit on who's going to be fulfilling, but you have a story in the works. You have a target audience marked decks. You have a semi-solid foundation here, but it's just missing some key components that could really help get this campaign to the next level.
Yeah, how much is it?
We are looking at $19 shipped, which again is a reasonable price point for a fully custom marked deck. The other thing I would mention too about this, while this whole story is here, it would be good to throw a little bit of that in between the images, because again, you have a very easy to scroll situation here. The other thing I'd say is, while these are, unique scenarios here, showing destruction of the product or lack of durability of the product isn't always a great sales tactic. While they are very artistic, I'd probably say nix the last, second to last, or probably the last 3 images there, all things considered. Maybe leave the one with the knife, but I don't know what purpose it necessarily holds in the scheme of things. I think that's
kind of violent against chameleons.
Well, and this is the other thing I really think people need to consider when they're going through their pictures. Yes, on their face, these are some fun, holiday-oriented, interesting pictures. But at the end of the day, you want to keep your pictures in the theme of the cards themselves. So why a beach? Yeah, chameleons are tropical, but like foliage probably would have been a better bet. Having some photoshopped in chameleons if you don't have easy access to a chameleon. Things like that that make the theme carry through with the images go a long way. Ultimately, this one with the sun and the deck, which you can't even really see, and then the sunglasses, doesn't bring much to the campaign to me other than like, cool, it's an interesting shot. I like the way the sun turned out in this, but it's not selling me on the deck itself. So really important to consider how much the images can actually impact the story, because you have 2 kind of subsets of potential backers you're looking at working towards. You either have people who are visual, and they're going to be driven by visual cues within this, so the images, or you have people who are more verbal, who are probably going to be driven by the story and the words itself. You want to account for both aspects of that, and especially in the playing card world, there's probably a heavier skew towards the visual side, where the visuals mean a lot. You could have the best story in the world, and if there's no pictures of your deck, very unlikely anyone's going to back it. Maybe 5 or 6 people will back it on a whim, but at the end of the day, having that healthy balance of thematically driven images and a story will get you a lot farther than cool images that have nothing to do with the deck.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you're spot on. I mean, if an image doesn't help your cause or purpose, there's no point in using it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, good luck on the campaign. Definitely take into consideration what isn't hitting the mark here, so you can really touch on it and go with it. Because I think people would like this theme, and it may need to go back to the drawing board and be further developed. But I think the concept is there, and there's a lot of potential. So good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
And coming in for another great campaign this week, we have the Bicycle Stronghold Natural Playing Cards, printed by USPCC, !
Orphaned !
So that may just be the screens shifting here. I think normally they look fine. But that being said, I will throw out 2 things immediately off the bat here. There's no need to put printed by USPCC in the titles, because I think ultimately it's a little bit deceptive. It makes it feel like the deck is being produced or manufactured, or USPCC has something involved with this campaign more so than just they're being contracted to print the deck. That being said, skip the all caps too. It is not 1998. People aren't confused about how to subject emails anymore with all caps. You can go with conversational tone. They've actually done studies that shows title case works a lot more effectively to gain attention than all caps, because in reality, all caps is no different than all lowercase, where it's all standard. Having title case gives you visual differentiation, which draws people's eyes more than all caps. 2 things to consider off the bat there. So, and again, the other thing we've mentioned earlier with some other campaigns is just the SEO aspects of these titles. Medieval, great keyword there, beautifully crafted by shapeshifters, awesome. Superior tuck boxes are produced by Gambler's Warehouse. That probably would be better in the body itself, but doesn't drive a lot of SEO purposes. People aren't searching tuck box on Kickstarter. They're not necessarily searching Gambler's Warehouse on Kickstarter. Doing something along the lines of, artistically designed playing cards, things like that that really hit those keywords that people may actually search on. So otherwise, great looking campaign, really well put together, great visuals, great features section, touches on some killer points, and again, price point on this thing is phenomenal, $12 shipped, so good luck.
Good luck.
And for another great campaign this week, we have the Samhain and Imbolc Wheel of the Year playing cards by Yoku. I'm going to tell you, I'm sure I butchered those just as bad as I butchered the first 2 decks in this series, and I'm okay with that. So if anyone would like to email over a audio explanation of how to say this, feel free to drop it, show@deckinaround.com. Otherwise, we're going to reach out to Yoku and say, hey, Anthony, let us know how you say these correctly so he can get a good chuckle out of it. Getting into this campaign, though, I gotta say, they did a great job here. This is no surprise. Yoku falls into one of my categories of great to templatize off of. If you're a first-time creator and you're not sure what to put into a campaign, check out Yoku. They tell a great story. They have amazing visuals. They really know how to build a fun, reasonably priced campaign.
Yeah, for sure.
And for another great campaign this week, we have the Graphic Cheat Sheet Playing Cards V3 Topography deck. So, really interested to see this one come to light, especially because they teased this, then pulled it back due to copyright concerns, and are revisiting this now with self-created fonts, which I think is absolutely dope. Taking a look at the campaign, they really put together a great campaign here. Obviously, there's involvement from Deck Idea, aka Jason. Jason really knows how to put his campaigns together. His exploration campaign is still currently live. So the one thing I would say on that, probably another one that falls into my template category of people who you can look at who have done a great job putting something together if you're not sure what to include or not to include in your campaign. Really nice visuals on it, really well put together, really nicely done. Good luck.
Good luck.
And for another great campaign this week, we have the Open Secrets Playing Cards deck from Orion Playing Cards. First-time creator, hit a really good stride here, 305 backers. Awesome to see. An illusion of a deck, printing by USPCC in foils and metallic inks. Really interesting there. The one thing I would say is the more and more that I think about this and the more we've talked about it, USPCC and gamblers in the subtext, again, doesn't drive SEO as much as, the visual aspect of it for people who are scrolling quickly through. So much traffic is driven to Kickstarter for playing cards from direct links and things along those lines that using those in place of SEO keywords probably, might be a wash, it might be a loss there. It's one of those things where I think there's so much opportunity here to use the word illusions and conspiracy and all this kind of top secret stuff in that subtitle that would probably drive a lot more interest from outside of those 305 backers you've already had there.
Yeah, for sure.
But really well put together campaign. Again, I cannot get enough of the single scroll. This one has a couple breaks here, but I really love just the image-based campaigns because it really allows you to control your entire layout so much more than Kickstarter itself does. I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple years we start seeing pretty much the majority of campaigns with this style to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Good luck. And coming in for another Needs Help campaign this week, we have the Diversity Sketches deck of playing cards, which honestly, I love the motivation behind this campaign. The biggest thing that stands out to me on it, though, is no real information around who's going to be printing, who's going to be fulfilling, a lot of the things that help drive trust for a first-time creator and give insight to backers so people are aware of what they're getting into with this campaign. But I really like the artwork. I think there's a lot of potential with this deck, but definitely check out some of the things that you see in other creators' campaigns to figure out what you need. I think at the end of the day, and this is something that isn't always the case, but is very frequently the case, when we see a needs help campaign, it's not just needs help because it doesn't meet the playing card world standards of what we want to see in a campaign. Very often, they're just very minimal campaigns in relation to Kickstarter standards. You know, you go look at these, you know, very successful Kickstarter campaigns. They are detailed. There's tons of information. There's tons of visuals. When you look at Kickstarter, more often than not, that's what you see in a successful campaign. That's what we try to bring to playing cards, but it's also what you should try to bring to all Kickstarter campaigns, no matter what you're trying to put up there, whether it be a coin, a shower head, a flashlight, you know, a matchbox car, whatever it could end up being. You really want to bring as much information as possible so that people feel that this is a fully fleshed out idea and they feel confident backing, because no one likes to jump into something that could end up not fulfilling, and building that trust helps ease them out of that concern.
Yeah, for sure. Good luck.
Good luck. So, Steve, I gotta say, man, this was an interesting week. We can definitely see the holiday kind of period settling in here. A lot of shorter time period campaigns, so those ending prior to Christmas, because I think people want to get things done before the holiday spending starts. What are you planning on backing, man?
Well, I'm thinking of some spicy nudes.
Nice.
And I'm not even going to try to butcher those names, but the GeoQ.
Nice.
And I think that's it.
All right, man. So I definitely agree with you on those two. Absolutely no question in my mind. I would be backing those. In addition, I'm intrigued by the Open Secrets deck. I like the idea of the UV glow tuck box, or not UV, the glow in the dark tuck box. The deck itself, the cards are interesting, not necessarily my style, but I don't know, I feel like I'm getting like suckered in lately by creative and clever tuck boxes. Not that I don't open my cards, I always open and use my cards, but I like seeing creativity in tuck boxes because there's only so much creativity you can do on cards themselves, and I think a lot of times people experiment on tuck boxes before those innovations make their way to the cards themselves.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's a creative, design, and if they went with blue, maybe I would be tackling
All
it.
right,
But
fair enough. I can see why you may not be on board with that. I know you're a big blue fan, not so much into the red, but
yeah.
And then you know what? On top of it too, I think I would probably also go with the Stronghold deck from Gamblers, just because at $12 it's a steal, and I like the foil and the metallics on it. It looks nice, but those would probably be my go-tos for this week. And as always, we like to hear what everyone out there is planning on backing this week. So make sure to drop a comment right down below. And while you're at it, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's jump into the fun stuff now. Dude, I know this is your favorite part of the week. This is getting to be my favorite part of the week too. Because I'll tell you, there's two parts about this that I like. It gives me an opportunity and an excuse to just scroll through Kickstarter and find cool stuff to look at. But it's also not about critiquing the campaign, but about just checking out cool stuff. Like this is how I shop in the real world. When I'm scrolling through something and I'm like, man, that's awesome. Let me find out everything I can about it. That's one of the things I love about Kickstarter. It's like a one-stop shop for everything you could want to know about that, except for the Amazon reviews. That's always the one thing it's missing for me.
Yeah, reviews would be really cool, actually, huh?
And you know, in most of these situations, obviously, because things are being prototyped and haven't been built out yet, it's hard to get, but we have seen somewhere they've done a little bit of a pre-creation stage where they'll do a limited run, send them out to influencers so they can get those reviews. But, yeah, dude, I always love checking out this stuff, so you ready to jump into it?
Do it.
All right. First up for this week's First Fun campaign from me, we have the Revopoint Pop 2 Precise 3D Scanner with 0.1 millimeter accuracy. So I think I've mentioned this a ton on these. I am in love with miniatures. I'm in love with 3D printing. I finally finished repairing my basement after a flood so I can get back into 3D printing. But the second I saw this thing, I was like, man, this would take my game to the next level because I am terrible at CAD and I have things that I want to print that are similar to objects I have around the house. It would be so much easier to scan them 3D and then modify them to fit my needs. And then I saw this thing and I was like, man, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Dude, it's really interesting to see too because of the size of it. Obviously, you're thinking about smaller objects here, but you can see some of these objects that they're scanning are actually relatively large. And now I'm sure there's a time-consuming process to scan through some of those larger objects, but the idea that this is a handheld, professional-grade 3D scanner is just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, look at it.
Yeah, and I'm sure none of these are coming in perfect after the scan. There's probably a lot of touch-up that goes into it, but touch-up is a lot easier than building something like this from scratch, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, no, how much does something like this go for?
So on the early bird side, you're looking at $438 shipped. So standard pricing, let's see. Hey, Kickstarter special. What do they have for, I'm just going to call this the standard, $540 retail-ish. So the interesting thing about this, though, too, this is a lot of tech, you know, like I personally haven't looked too much into the 3D scanning world, but I know at one point I stumbled across a 3D scanner for like manufacturing purposes, and the thing was like $100,000. So like the price point to get large scale, high quality scanners is very high. I mean, it makes sense, especially if you want lower than 0.1 millimeter accuracy and things like that. But bringing this to what would probably be considered a prosumer grade, if you're doing a lot of 3D printing as a career or as a hobby career or a side hustle, this is something that could definitely take it to the next level, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, they put out a lot of reviews here, so they must have sent out a good amount to some of these, YouTubers, and that's pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to check this one out later, the iPhone 13 Pro versus the Revopoint Pop 2. I'm assuming because it's on the thing, it's probably a good one, but that would be pretty bad if they got beat out by an iPhone for a 3D scanner, even though the iPhone actually costs a lot more.
I got the new iPhone. I could do 3D scanning now.
Yeah, for 3 times the price. But yeah, it's interesting to see, especially because I think like a purpose-built tool like this probably gets a lot more accuracy than the iPhone would. Yeah. But something to consider out there too if people are looking for entry-level 3D scanning. Maybe an iPhone is a feasible kind of thing. This is like,
yeah, I mean, I'm curious because I mean, obviously the iPhone and their many cameras might be beneficial in something like this, you know?
Yeah, I haven't played around with the idea of consumer style 3D scanning yet, so it's something that I'd definitely be interested in checking out. But I love.
So cool.
I also like the idea, and I think it's funny because it kind of shows they're scanning and it's coming in blue, but then they also show like the fully colored one, and this is obviously post-processing where they've added color and things like that. But it's so cool to see how closely they really got the shading and the color.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Dude, this is a fun one. I definitely love these kind of little gadgets, and honestly, that's probably one of my favorite things about Kickstarter, is it's everybody's like favorite gadget spot. Like, I just remember growing up and looking at things like things you never knew existed, and again, like that's such a junk magazine with so much like stuff you don't need, and sometimes that's what Kickstarter feels like, but just because you don't need it doesn't mean you don't want it necessarily. I love it. But good luck to them on this one. Already raised $1.3 million, which is boggling to the mind. But at the same time, with a high price point like $500, you know, there you go. You throw 2,000 backers at it, that's $1 million. So it makes sense. But again, 2,800 backers is nothing to scoff at. So congratulations to Revopoint on that one. Can't wait to see what they do with this in future iterations. Maybe they get it down to sub $300. That would be more in my price range.
And smaller.
Yes, and hey, you know, even if it went bigger.
I mean, it's pretty small anyway, but
even if it went,
you can always get smaller.
Even if it went bigger because it was better quality and they got 0.05 millimeter accuracy, I'd be okay with that too. Just the price point is what gets me.
Yeah.
And for another fun.
Good luck.
Good luck. And for another fun campaign this week, we have the Kingmaker all-in-one gaming and dining table. I absolutely love this thing. It looks so dope. The coolest part about it, twofold. A, it's made for tabletop gaming. Looks great. Your unassuming kitchen or dining room table turns into a gaming table with the removal of some slats, has cup holders on it, all this cool stuff. But I think the biggest thing that stands out to me on this one is the fact that it's real wood. These days, you're so often finding MDF and things like that, processed, particle board, that you're not getting real wood, and it's super heavy. Real wood is actually lighter than MDF in many situations, and so seeing them use real wood here obviously is going to increase the price point, but it's going to add just longevity to this ultimately. You're not going to have veneers that are peeling. It looks like it's all nicely stained. I think it's just dope.
Crazy.
Dude, look at that. Built-in LED lights. Yeah, built-in LED lights, cup holders, card slots. You could play Uno on this thing. You could do anything under the sun. That's the cool thing about it. It's not just for tabletop gaming of the D&D or Warhammer variety. This could literally be for any type of game night, which I love that concept.
Yeah, it's crazy. I say it all the time. It's just so out of my world. Yeah. I don't know anything about this world, and it's funny because there's so much involved in it.
Dude, there really is. It is a huge industry, but yeah, look how clean that table looks. Honestly, that's like an...
Yeah, I mean, it looks great.
I would look at that table twice just to check it out in general. Tell me it's a tabletop gaming table, and I'm 100% on it.
Here's my question, though. Like, how are those slats on the top with, liquid leaking through or anything like that? You don't want to ruin the table, well, not ultimately the tabletop, but the gaming top.
So I think a lot of that depends on what's underneath, like the interior pad itself. If it's something easily replaceable like felt, yeah, it may get a little banged up. I mean, at the end of the day, there's cup holders on it. You can see, it kills me. There's a cup holder built for this thing, but he's got his cup on the table itself.
Yeah, but, right. He has that cup, and then he has his soda bottle right on the right.
I know, man. This guy's gonna have a sugar crash in like an hour. But all things considered, like, I think a lot of it's probably replaceable. But at the same time, too, if you're worried about that, maybe you throw a tablecloth on it when you use it otherwise,
Yeah, no, for sure.
Look at this.
How much does this go for?
It's going to be expensive. Oh, dude, that is not as expensive as I thought it was going to be. $260. Oh. But what do you get here?
That's for a coffee. Oh, that's the coffee table.
Choose any size of table and add any accessory.
Interesting.
Find your total using the rewards list on the campaign page. So this is where I don't know how I feel about this one. It seems like I have to do a lot of math to get to what the price point is. Yeah. So if you want the large one, which fits 8 people, it's $900. Then you add in the LEDs, it's another $150. You add in the topper system, it's $200. USB charger $50, wireless charger $75, topper holder. So all told, you could get a discount, which would normally be $16.25 for $12.90. That being said, for a dining room table, that's actually not a bad price for a real wood dining room table. Yeah. I mean, you look at real wood,
and an 8-person dining room
dude,
table.
like that's gonna cost you $1,000 for one that doesn't even have all the cool tabletop gaming stuff in it. So for an extra $200, $300, you're getting some really fun stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, a dining room table that's made out of wood, that's an 8-person table, is gonna cost you more than $1,000.
And it looks good. It's good looking. I like it. So good luck to them on this one. Already 112 grand and 153 backers. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that go up a significant amount before the end here. Obviously, being so close to the holidays, budgets might be a little bit tight, but good luck to you on this one because I think this is a dope idea.
Luck.
Yeah, nicely done, Wood Project. And coming up for Steve's first fun campaign this week, we have the Waals speaker with 9-inch ferromagnetic visualizer.
Dude, I love this thing. It's so cool.
This is dope. I'm not going to lie. Very cool.
It reminds me of the Nickelodeon logo.
Yeah, a little bit. I could see that.
It's so cool, though. You watch the video and it just shows this, like, pulsating blob. It just adds so much depth to the music that you're already feeling. It's just so cool.
You know what this reminds me of? Remember back in the day when you'd listen to music on your computer when like MP3s first became a thing, and you'd use like Windows Media Player and it would have the visualizer? This is like the next level visualizer. This is so fun.
That's so true.
This is really dope. And this is big
so
too.
True.
I was actually, from the first picture, I thought it was maybe like,
like a small,
like a softball or something. This is big.
Yeah, I mean $350. Gotta be big.
And I mean, honestly, in the home speaker category now, that's what you're going to pay for a entry-level Bose system. Like, as long as the speaker in this is solid quality, the ferromagnetic just becomes like a nice add-on to it. Hopefully that's the route they took and they didn't focus on, hey, this looks cool but sounds like garbage, versus, hey, this sounds great and has something cool too.
Yeah, I mean, it's super sleek.
It looks very, very modern. Very cool looking though.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to have the right kind of decor. Could you imagine having 2 of these? You'd have to have the right kind of decor, I think, to like really fit this in your house somewhere.
I mean, it would fit in my house.
Yeah, I'm sure, dude. Look at that super early bird, $6.79 for 2. Christmas is coming up, Steve. Hanukkah's coming up.
I don't need another speaker in my house.
I like.
You know what? If you could tie that into like Alexa, I'd be down. But
maybe that's. Let's see here.
Oh, I'm saying if that was actually the Alexa, then I'd be down.
Yeah.
Because I already have 2 Alexas in the house, so I don't need another speaker hanging around,
Yeah.
It's cool, though. I love it.
It is really cool. I like the concept behind it. I love the artistic style to it as well.
Yeah. What about July?
Of course, they're on everything, man. They're on anything big.
Yeah.
So good luck,
Good
Sergey. Absolutely clever idea, man. Absolutely love it. Windows Media Player Visualizer 2.0. Nicely done.
Yeah, right.
And coming in for another fun campaign this week, we have the RONY
light.
flashlight, an innovative fusion of metal and light. I'll be honest, man. I feel like it's been like 6 weeks since you had a light, so I'm okay with it. It was probably last week, but I forget, so I'm gonna let it slide here.
Yeah, you know, the RONY flashlight. It sounds a little perverted, but it looks cool.
Dude, 1500 lumens. This thing is mad bright, 1200 foot range, 2 LED diodes, 6 modes. This thing is pretty intense, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, dude. You know what the one thing I really liked about it? You know, at first I looked at it and I was like, okay, it has 2 flashlights, one out the front, one in the back. But you know how when you're walking and you're hiking or whatever, and you know you have a headlamp or you have even a flashlight, and there's people behind you,
they can't really
and you're
see
like
anything.
you're constantly turning around, lighting the way for them. This totally eliminates that and allows you to just carry the flashlight and they could see, you know, walking in front of them as well.
I like that. I like the carbon fiber one too better than the brushed aluminum.
Yeah, water resistant as well, which is really cool.
This is clever.
Yeah, it's not bad, right? It's like, I think $69.
What are we looking at? The aluminum is 63, and what's the difference here? Aluminum versus anodized aluminum if you want some flashy colors, and then the carbon is 86. Still a deal.
Nice. Yeah, pretty cool. You can get a little holder and strap it on your bike.
You can look at that, different modes there. It gets up to 1500 lumens. That really is crazy bright.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm impressed with this. I feel like someday we're going to open a closet at your house and there's going to be like 48,000 flashlights. Like, turns out Steve's a flashlight hoarder.
Dude, it's kind of sad because I don't even have a flashlight. That's the problem. You know, when we had the power go out a little while ago, you know, I have all these things from like Out of Play or something, you know, the books that open up. You open up the book, or you have the globe that's like wireless, and you just turn the globe on, and that's what we were actually using to light up the house. That and candles rather than.
It's all right. I'm in the same boat. I used to have a whole bunch of those like LED candles that you could get from Sharper Image, and whenever the power go out, that's what I'd have to use. And then like the battery started to die and things like that, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna sit here in the dark and read with my Kindle. Man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I did get the bullet light though, that little bullet one that we talked about a little while ago, and hasn't fulfilled yet, but I'll let you know when I get it.
It does. Everyone's gonna have to keep an eye out for a review. I gotta say,
sure.
As much as this thing is awesome, this little belt clip here, now, just 100% now.
Yeah, no, it does. Look at it just sticking straight out. It would have been much cooler if it was going straight down.
Honestly, though, either way, it reminds me of like the belt clips that people would wear with cell phones back in the day, which I think some people still wear. And if you do, I apologize. Nothing against you, but
I don't apologize.
Yeah, dude, but this is just not it. This is not it.
Yeah, I mean, even that carabiner with that's not it either. Their accessory side is lacking, but.
I listen, other than the pouch with a solar panel to charge it, that's pretty clever, but yeah, slacked on these other two here. So really cool design to it though, a very modern looking flashlight, and honestly a really solid price point for something so bright, especially if one thing I always tell people, you should always have a flashlight in your car for emergencies. So if you don't have a flashlight out there, you're looking for something a little fancy for your car, you want to spend $63, go check this thing out. Yeah,
you have a nice little sleek car, maybe a Tesla, it'd be perfect for it.
The other thing, though, I'm confused about here, most flashlights, 110 euros. If someone can point me out a 110 euro flashlight that is most flashlights.
Yeah, I don't know.
What?
Man.
What?
Yeah, I can't answer that one. Most flashlights are like $20.
God, right? I feel like you can go to Walmart and get like a $5 flashlight.
I mean, you can get a $5 flashlight, but most flashlights, like decent flashlights, I would think are around $20, $25.
All right, branded marketing. So, and here's the thing. I know where like the high-end flashlight market started, or may have not started, but was promoted pretty heavily by Surefire. And Surefire makes phenomenal flashlights. And those may be coming around that 150 mark. But like, they're tactical flashlights. They have like crowns on them for self-defense. They have like stun modes and things like that. So I can get maybe that's where they're saying, but I think the term most flashlights probably would have been better suited with like branded flashlights or high-end flashlights, something like that, because I'm sure there are some Black Friday deals out there where you can get a 4-pack of flashlights for $9.95 with the batteries included.
We don't know how long they'll last, but you know.
They'll last until you need them.
Yeah, that's crazy. This thing's crazy looking,
Yeah, I
huh?
really dig it, man. Very cool. Very cool. Good luck.
Good luck.
And I gotta say, this was a jam-packed week. Some really fun campaigns. Really excited to see the new direction for the fun stuff, not going all gaming or all Mesmo coins as we did last week. But I'm glad to see you go to the OG roots there and bring a flashlight into it. As
I had to, man. I had to bring them in every once in a while, you know.
keep me on my toes there, because honestly, I don't remember the last time you did a light. You could be doing them every week. I wouldn't remember. I'll be very honest about that. But with that in mind, we appreciate each and every one of you tuning in this week to check out what's on Kickstarter. So make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And as always, we'd love to hear what caught your eye on Kickstarter this week, so make sure to drop a comment right down below. Let us know what campaigns you're backing, whether they are playing cards or other fun stuff like the flashlight or any of that cool stuff that you see on Kickstarter. It's an amazing platform with so many cool, fun gadgets on it, so make sure to check it out. We'll see you next week.
Bye.